Okay, so we'll do the introduction now.
Yep.
All right, now. Okay, well, actually, we gave away a bit of this when we just spoke before. We've got to be honest, we've been doing this now for probably 15 years, and we use the best science and the best machinery, the best archaeology we can use. We rely on that first and foremost, but I've got to make the point, when we go on the country, we normally take a psychic with us. We're open to both sides of the equation, and we've made that clear. And when we do our reports, we separate the two so people don't get confused. If they don't want to walk down that side, that's fine. We give them a choice. Now, having said that, I remember listening to the last gentleman talk about remote viewing, and then I thought of Valerie with her channeling. And I've got to be honest, of all the different disciplines, it was the one that I was least interested in and had to be really converted to believe in this. And I want to explain why. Valerie left me open to Leah, who's turned up later. I know that she's just as legitimate as Valerie is, and others. And the reason is this. I met Valerie quite a few times, and I knew she was channeling an original spirit called Al Karinga, and I thought, well, yeah, fine, that's okay. You can believe that. That's all right. But I learned one thing with Valerie. I've met her on a personal level, which a lot of people haven't. And the idea that she'd be lying about something that's so integral to the whole of her life, it's not true. It can't be. Because there's an honesty, integrity in this lady that is not manufactured. It's just there. That's part of her being. Which led me down the path of one of two things. She's telling the truth. I know this sounds bizarre, and I've only two people I'm going to say this about, and I said this about Leah, but Leah only gets there through Valerie. That's fine to say that she's telling the truth, but then you can come back to me and say, as a scientist would, it's delusional. That's the other one. You can believe in a delusion. So there is that possibility. But ladies and gentlemen, if you think that way, what I would suggest is, I remember when I read a book by Valerie called Al Karinga, and I read the channeling that came from this being. And I can tell you now, the depth of wisdom and the insights that were coming through this channeling can't come from a delusional mind. There's high intelligence, insight, and wisdom there that just doesn't come from a raving lunatic, which I've been called, haven't I?
Yes, you have many times.
But in this case, it doesn't fit. So therefore, what I'm left with is the only possible option is that Valerie was delusional, but it can't be that, because I've read what's written by this delusional character, and that's not there. You only have to read the wisdom in that book. You'll realize then, no, this is actually a proper path. So what Valerie's going to talk about, for the rational part of our mind, that overabundant left hemisphere, it's challenging. Because she's going to say things, you're going to say, well, where's the thing that you're channeling from? Where is that being manifested in front of me? So it's a leap of faith. But ladies and gentlemen, we made that leap of faith because we knew her personally. Then we actually read, listened to what she said, and then read what this being that she's in contact with spoke about and revealed to her. And right now is the right time to listen to this wisdom, because it's needed, because in the future, this will be the dominant wisdom in this planet. And if you can't get used to it now, you probably never will. So here's a good chance to prepare yourself for the sorts of thinking and the sorts of action and the philosophy that comes past the change that began at Uluru. So I'll hand over to our Valerie now and let her share the wisdom of what she's learned and what she's learned through Al Karinga, an original spirit. And when we come back, there is one question I'm going to open with when we come back and you're finished about Al Karinga and your relationship. But I won't tell you what that is until they're finished. I don't want to give that away. Over to you, Valerie, and I'm looking forward to what you've got to tell us today, and also what you're going to channel, because I know it's true.
So, are you asking me to channel? Is that what you think?
No, just your stories of doing it. That's an essence of who you are. I believe in that, and that's what I'm passing on to others.
Okay.
No, you today.
It's a long story, and I have actually been prompted to write. I was actually called. I was never looking for any of this. I was called and awakened one night, and a voice, very dignified voice, was asking me to stand up. It's a bit of a long story, and I don't know how much time I've got, Stephen. So can I just I've been asked to put it all in this book now, this latest one. And in part 2, it's got where I was holding the sacred Alkaringa stone, that belonged to the Indigenous people of Australia. And that seems to be a big part of my mission into helping people to understand how the clever ones actually are able to hold and know knowledge even before humans were said to exist on the planet. They know about the creation of the planet, that type of stories, and they call it dreaming. Now, I've come to understand also that the dreaming, of course, is in science where we talk about the, what do you call it? There's a name for it. Can't think of it now. It's an aspect of sleeping, and it's just the one before deep sleep. And it's part of the dreaming so that it's not linked to the brain. It still has images and it can communicate. And your higher self, your God self, actually can send messages through to you. And this is what I understand is happening to the Indigenous people, the clever ones that have been chosen, and they know it's their work when they're first born. The whole tribe know that. And they actually then just tune, be quiet, they train. There's a lot of initiation. Sometimes they have a near-death experience and come back again, which has happened to me also. And when you channel, your brain's asleep, but you've got this talk and this conversation coming through. It's actually borrowed your voice box to come through and speak. I have no idea what's going to come. And this is what it is with channelers. There's many of them on the earth. I understand there's something like 144,000 that have committed to come to earth at this time, because we are gradually, with the new energy coming onto this earth all the time, it's raising consciousness. So there's layers of consciousness changing all the time, where you can look back and think, well, you couldn't talk about UFOs, say, in the 50s, people would laugh. But now there's more people opening up to it. It's a big story. This is a thing. And I think the real answer is for people to experience it themselves. And they can do that. Everybody is a star person. There's no doubt about that. And they've come from the stars, and they're influenced by the stars all the time without really realizing it. And they have thoughts and think, or a dream and think, where did that come from? But it was meaningful to them, and it helped them make a decision about their life. Everybody has that in them, and we call it intuition, which means inside teaching. So we haven't been sort of just dropped here into an earth body without this consciousness coming with us, which we all refer to as the soul. And the soul consciousness is the secret. That's when you meditate and you can actually still the brain and actually connect to the soul consciousness, which can relate to your oversoul and then to your God self, if you like. Like I said, a little bit wary about the use of God, because there's been things done in the name of God which got nothing to do with God at all. And so people need to use discernment always. And that is linked to our feeling. We are all sentient beings, and so we feel. Something feels right, or it feels familiar, or it doesn't feel quite right. So we just leave that or let it go for a while. And we're training, and it's self-training, and it's discipline. And there are people that will help you to gain or tap into that actual world, that dimension, that consciousness, which is everything. And consciousness exists in everything. It just doesn't always have a language, and it's not just humans. It is in everything. And the Indigenous people in Australia understood that and know it. And so they're losing it a little now because of the white man's ways and them trying to adjust. And it's just so different. It's very hard for them to find a medium way to all interact. However, if we listen to them and quite a lot of the information that they have, we can learn a lot. And they certainly can help with understanding the environment and listening to the way the planet has been created and the necessity for it to be protected, and to, can I say, not have disagreements about whether we have climate change or not, but rather listen to the scientists that say that the world, the earth, is very badly polluted, and that is no denial. We need to deal with that. And once we deal with that, the climate will change. It'll look after itself. We have been invited by our contacts from Andromeda, who actually say they have created our planet in the first place. If I can go back further than that, there have been Star Wars. It's not fiction, it's real. And it's in mythologies of many, many different races on this planet. And there's a reality there. So the fact that there have been Star Wars means that there's been use of bombs and freezing so that things are actually, can't think of the word now, but just frozen. And so that that has happened also. There was a time on this planet when it was the time of giants. If you go to another planet, it wouldn't look like giants, but comparing to how it is here on this Earth, this planet, it was a time of giants. And there were, shall we say, illegal people that had come from the stars to occupy this Earth and were misusing genetic engineering. They're very clever with that. The source asked that anyone that is using genetic engineering, that they connect with the source of all creation and find permission first for all their creations. So it's necessary that we understand that the universal laws, and the universal laws also, we have been given free will. And that means that the star people can't readily come and help us. They want to. There are many, many benevolent star people that have presented themselves in many different names. For me, they have said they are United Planetary Nations, and they have agreed to help, and they want to help, but they can't just step in and take over. So they drop little thoughts around us, and if we pick it up, it becomes our choice, and so that we can move and be led or guided from those thoughts. However, they do now want to actually present themselves in a hologram of light, the same way they did to me back in 2017. Andromeda Val, she calls herself, actually presented herself and looking very human, and presented herself in this light beside my bed, and I was awake, and I must say I was a bit surprised, but it actually helped me to understand also of how it is. They communicate mind to mind, and so to communicate they need channelers like I am, that they borrow the voice box and speak through that person. It's all been agreed to long before any of us have come. When we come, we have agreed to some certain amount of things happening in our life ahead of us. And one of the things for people like myself, with the 144,000 that have come voluntarily, they didn't have to come, but they've come to help to earth the new energy that's coming and gradually changing and calibrating the earth and bringing it back to the balance that it had before the fall of Atlantis. The earth almost died at that time, and there have been reports about that from scientists all over, and confusion for scientists also, because earth dated, shall we say, old earth became on the top of new earth, and so it's all mixed up, and that the measurement and dating could be very confusing. However, they have attempted to, with this sacred stone, for instance, in holding it, they gave a clear way of how it all happened. That was a brief overview. That is now part 2 in this book. And so if anyone's interested, it's all done with love, and it's also been blessed by the avatar of India called Sri Satya Sadhana, who actually called me and gave me this ring. He manifested it and put it on my hand. This is the one here. It actually is a diamond. And I was shown that it was actually made by extraterrestrials. I could see long white fingers working very, very fast. And it was explained that it was made the same way as humans make industrial diamonds. And so when Baba gave me this ring, he put it in my hand and said, when you look in there, I will be there. And so now at this time, he helps people. We work on Skype with people in to go into a light meditation. It's not a heavy meditation at all, but the energy is there, and I'm able to take energies from my mobile, which shows the different energy colors and patterns that show up while the work's being done. And they're actually having scalar energy, which is what Nikola Tesla talked about. It's now moved on and calling scalar energy. And it helps to lift and recalibrate the, shall I say, the DNA within our Earth body. Because that's lagging behind. It's a little harder, it's heavier, it's harder to lift that consciousness, whereas our brain and our consciousness from our soul consciousness can be lifted much easier. It's done with our thought, it's done with focus and intent. And that's the secret, because in actual fact, when you think about consciousness, it is not limited by time or distance at all. And so it's all relative where you focus and what your intent is. And that's the thing, to begin to actually help yourself to actually focus and not get distracted in any way. And that is a clear connection to your God self or creator self. And from there, you can have conversations with God, if you like. And the important thing too is that you can actually, what can I say, give up your brain in what your personal personality wants or thinks, and dedicate yourself to your God self and follow from that point. You're not giving your power away, you're actually gaining it. And that's an important thing, but it's not important. It's important not to give away your power to anyone else, of course, not at all. And so you can actually follow and live a life here, which is difficult on this planet, because we are here to help many, many different people that are coming into Earth bodies that are cold-blooded, that's in this corner of our galaxy, the Milky Way, and we have all agreed to help one another. And this is important, that we don't judge anything. However, it doesn't mean to say we have to be best friends with everyone, but there is a prayer. Now that sounds like religion, but it's actually science, because if you have an intent and a focus and you're calling on the source of all creation to help this person, then you hand it over, and then it will be led and given in any way. This helps the star people then to bypass the universal law of intruding without being asked first. So you can ask for other people as well. And if it's given, it's, shall we say, the creator's choice. You just hand it over. So I don't know if I'm going on a bit too long, Stephen. I don't know if I seem to be the only one here. So am I going on too much?
No, not at all, Valerie. You're doing good. People are really resonating with what you're saying. I was just actually reading a comment from one of our sponsors, Paul Wallace. He's saying, I love Valerie's clarity, love her point about not giving your power away. So you're resonating. You're doing just fantastic. So please carry on.
Okay. I am a little lost because it's been many, many years. And as the books that I've written or been asked to write, I've done. And like I said, they were blessed also by an avatar. Well, that doesn't happen just anyone. He had millions of followers and still has. Even though he's left this body, he's still only in the next world working and helping, as are a lot of the very clever and wise ones. They're still here helping us. We are not alone, never alone. There's always our angelic self that is helping us more than anything else. An angelic self might seem like a religious way of looking at something, and that's true. But that's how we recognize it. But it could be another form, we could call it a God being, and it is a form that is our raised connection to the source of all creation. This is where we're heading back. We are, I believe, heading back to an alignment which we were out of after Atlantis fell. That was a big, big mess then. But getting back to Atlantis when it fell, it dropped in consciousness, and then it's been gradually trying to climb back up. There's only something like 12,000 years. It was started long before that, as far as Atlantis goes, but 12,000 years ago when it crashed, and everything was all in a mess, absolutely being blown up, and all because scientists did do something without permission from the source. They were warned by other scientists and they didn't take any notice. And so there was a huge, huge second moon that was being created, and it went into the sea in the Caribbean near the, I can't think of the name, Chicha Club. I can't pronounce it, and yet I can see the image. That's an interesting thing. I think sometimes when we can't think of things clearly, we can always see the image, which I think it must help in some way with dementia, with communicating with people. Sorry?
Chitziclib or Chitziclub, something like that. I can't pronounce it either.
Yeah, Chicha Club, something like that.
Yeah.
Or you could say the plateau of no, I've lost it myself too. I'm sorry. I'm actually pretty good at remembering things. I think I'm a little flustered. There's all these clever people writing and talking, and I'm coming from, I think they've purposely got me to be very simple and easy for people to relate to, which I find is lovely. And I don't push anything. I start talking, people might ask me, what on earth, what do I do? And most women my age may do something in charity or whatever, social lives. And I just bite the bullet and say, well, I'm a medium, and wait for the reaction. Sometimes I get glass come over their eyes, so I just leave it. But otherwise, they start confiding in me with a whole lot of experiences that they've had. They've never been game to talk about it. So this is a secret, I think, about getting out more of this knowledge, more of this information and different experiences, not sort of taking on board what feels right for you personally, but not necessarily wiping it off altogether, because it might be that you just haven't got to that layer of consciousness that it does make sense. And that's what's been happening. We've been climbing like a ladder, climbing step by step on this level, which is getting to what they call a level playing field. And if you measure it, it's the same as frequency and vibration of crystal. It's no coincidence that crystal was used in first radios and also the first discoveries, or rather attempts to explore our outer space, that type of thing. So that crystal is very important. And more of the teachings and words that Nikola Tesla had, he said, if you want to know about the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. That sounds very simple. And of course, if you start analyzing, it really gets very complicated, and it's numbers too. However, that's another thing too. Jesus talked about every hair on your head is numbered. And as a child, I thought that was quite fascinating. I didn't think, how in the hell, when your hair drops out, you're losing a number. But I do understand it is a way of measurement. And measurement does take place with the star people, but consciousness is the thing. And so when consciousness, that means everything is happening at once. In other words, the past, the present, and the future is all together. It is where you focus and intend to focus, and drawing upon your God self, or an angelic being, if you like, or whoever you trust from other worlds, accept that they do exist and that we do not die. We leave our physical earth body, yes, that goes back, and the brain goes back to earth as dust, yes. But science will say that you cannot destroy energy, and that's true. It changes form, and that's what happened. We actually go back to the light being we have always been, as well as an earth body. We are an earth body and a light body, and the consciousness interact there, both of them. So getting caught up with all these technology and understanding, that's fine. And if that helps you to understand something, that's fine too. And so we need to respect always all the different ways people talk about things and not be rude or brush it off. Just think, well, it doesn't quite fit with the way I've been shown or whatever. Honor each person and respect each person. And that goes in all the different customs and cultures and the peoples that are on, the races that are on this planet Earth. That way we will find peace. Because it's only misunderstandings that causes conflict. We can always agree to disagree, but most of the time, if we just keep rephrasing the way we speak or express ourselves, sooner or later, you find we're all talking about the same thing. It's just that we were saying it in a different way. Understand, if you go to consciousness only, telepathic communication, there's less likely to be misunderstanding. I think that makes sense. So, I don't know, I could go on. I think I would like to say that this taught me a lot. It really opened up what my mission was about. I had been contacted before this. This is written in part 2 of this book now. It had to be republished. And this actually is blessed. The stone I was holding was wrapped in paper bark and tied with string, and it came from the stars. The indigenous people knew that and said it. And it was linked also with Uluru. Now, Uluru is another thing altogether, because I believe there are indigenous people, clever ones. The clever ones will say that Uluru has come from the stars. Well, holding the sacred stone, and I didn't know anything, I only heard all this afterwards, that Uluru had come from the stars. And there was a conflict in that scientists say, no, it couldn't have come from the stars. There could be a huge impact crater, but it would have exploded, and it would not be really real evidence of an asteroid coming in. Well, the Star people have actually asked me now to write another book, which will be published in about 6 months. I've sent the manuscript now to the editors at the publishers, and so they're working on it. But I've also worked with a scientist, and he was a bit cheery. No, it couldn't be an asteroid and survive. However, when I gave him the clues that Ringa gave me or us, he started to change his thinking. And so we did put together a, what can I say, a PowerPoint presentation for scientists. We didn't talk about star people because they haven't been officially accepted yet. As soon as they are, all, shall we say, theories or hypotheses that scientists have without the answers that they're looking for will be clarified. The star people will be able to clarify and help them also how to get our planet back onto balance and the way it is meant to be from when it was first created. They have actually put out an announcement, and that is on my website. Also, with a YouTube. YouTube, I did channeling. Like I said, I don't know what's going to come. They just borrow my voice box and takes over. And they said they would like to meet the leaders. And so there's nothing I have to do, they said to me. But there's that invitation. So they really are working and wanting to communicate officially, and they will come. And they will present themselves in a hologram of light, the way they did beside my bed. They have the technology. They have the radio connection already with different radios. It's like radio. From our point of view, it's a bit hard to accept, but they have the advanced technology that does it. And we connect to Andromeda whenever we have our monthly meetings. And so they give us information or answer questions, that type of thing. And so it's quite exciting actually now, because they do want to come and present themselves in a hologram of light. And that's quite wonderful. And hopefully it will happen, and fairly soon, I think, because they are concerned about the state of our planet. It needs to be rethought about how it's used, how it's misused, and how we need to heal it. So I think I got off the track. No, I wanted to say it was one of our readers sent me a book. If I've got it here, this one. It's this one called The Secret Places of Light. It's a very appropriate, I don't know if anybody's seen it, by George Hunt Williamson. Hang on, there you go. And he's not alive anymore. He left us in 2015. However, it's got a lot of very interesting information. The lady that brought it to my attention said, when you've written that lady book, Star Lady book, and talked about the different experiences you had with your guides leading you to all these different travels and remembering who you were, well, they fit with the information that's given in this book. And this book, just reading the first little bit, says mankind's earliest traditions speak of arrival of certain souls, not of this earth, who appear as radiant beings from heaven and who come to assist mankind in its struggle to develop its divine birthright. These self-sacrificing guardians of the human race have figured prominently in the wide panorama of human history. I really would recommend it. You can still get the book, and I got mine from Booktopia, and it's got a lot of information, and particularly about early ancient Egypt, which was the follow-on after Atlantis fell, and it was such a mess, and it had to be closed off. There's a net that you can't see with your eyes, but it holds our atmosphere in. And because of the craziness that was going on when that second moon broke and went into the sea in Caribbean, it created such a disaster that it was sending out energies that were interfering with our solar system and elsewhere. And so the hierarchy had to immediately contain it. And so that energy that was unseen there had to be tightened. So it was tightened so that the energy was contained. And it was said that what man had created upon the planet, man had to undo. And so now a lot of the star people have been coming onto this planet on and off for millions of years. And sometimes, particularly around Atlantean times, they tell us that the star people existed in civilizations. They weren't actually the same as humans. They didn't have the DNA that humans had, because we've inherited, shall we say, animal DNA. And we've evolved over the years and millions of years, and it goes back quite a long way. And at the time, and still is, we gradually, evolving and raising in consciousness and changing. There have been interaction with different star people with our human body also, and that was written, and it's been reported also, which is, I think, a very interesting one in this story. This is actually when, can I say, we, after I had held that sacred alchemy stone, a year later, I had published this diary, which, as I said, has already been reproduced now. But it was a diary virtually, and it attracted a very lovely, clever Indigenous healer. He came and introduced himself. He was quite stern, actually. He was wanting to know what, as a woman, what I was doing with this sacred stone. And I always knew that it was men's business and that I shouldn't open it, and I never did. However, it still gave me all this information. And that is by just, well, I didn't know I could do it, actually, but I just held it and it just started flowing through me. I was filled with this bright blue-white light and these questions and answers, and I was still conscious. I could still see myself in the room, but and so I was assisted as well. So you can always get assistance with anything that you reach out and you really want to do if you are sincere. Well, at another layer, at that time, I obviously had agreed to do all this, and there was something about that I knew, although consciously I didn't at that time. However, it's unfolded, and there was talk then about these Egyptian glyphs that were at Carry-On that Stephen and Evan talk about, and that's where I met them actually. They're coming from a scientific point. We're coming from a metaphysic point, but they do interact very much so. So it's like quantum physics. Quantum physics, it's all part of the same thing. It's just that we haven't actually begun to explore that larger picture. And I think Alan was talking about that, and well, he was, definitely. So it's a case of opening up and finding a different way, and also making a ceremony, if you like, of that you would like to know more and connect to your God self. Once you start doing that, things will happen. Be aware of signs and symbols. They're very important in that they teach a lot. There's an understanding. As I said, there's not the same understanding for each person. However, you can buy books. I've got this book, Symbols of Understanding by Betty, gosh, I can't think of the name. Anyway, I've got a website, just valeriebarrow.com. And it's got my email address on. If anyone wants to write and ask questions, then I'd be happy to reply. So getting back to this, I found that John and I, we had past lives, and we'd written in that other book, the Lady book, Star Lady book, and it had been blessed by the avatar. And he called me Star Lady, actually, and he called me Val, which I didn't particularly like, and my name's Valerie. But he did that. That was when he gave me the ring. It was back in 1992. It was a long while now, but he knew at the time. So the reality of this 144,000 is explained in this book. So I recommend anyone thinking about just exploring more. That book's worthwhile reading. And it talks about the places of the lion, and the places of the lion. The first lion's gate was Uluru, because the Leonine race from our, Milky Way have actually, from Sirius, they were part of the requirement by the hierarchy to help change the what was happening upon this earth. It was getting so that it was out of control. The huge dinosaurs had eaten all the foliage. They were dying back. Their bodies weren't going back quickly enough into the earth. The whole environment, the atmosphere was changing, and it was wrecking what the hierarchy had actually created in the first place. And so it had to be stopped. They didn't like doing it, but what they did do is actually use these. My husband, actually, John, remembered the life of a lion and the lion people, and how they were like the cosmic cops. And so they sort of acted a kind of peacemakers. However, bombing Earth to recreate and let go all that existed at that time, which was something like 60 million years ago, they actually, I think I've lost a little bit on here. I'm sorry about the, it's a big thing about this lions, because it keeps coming up. Just the 8th of the 8th was the other day. Again, that's another reminder of the cosmic consciousness of the Leonine, because with the experiments of the illegal occupiers of our planet. They just came and took it over. This is the cold-blooded people. They actually took it over, and they we can't judge them, but they did take it over, and they were using experimental, having fun, actually creating new works of art all the time as they saw it. And so there were new animals, new birds, new crustaceans, a whole lot of things. There's a real story in it, and it's all comes out and explained in this book. This book was actually came together by many people remembering being star people and remembering the event that happened at that time. That was nearly 1 million years ago. Now, time differs with the star people and here. So it was a long time ago. You could say 700,000 to 900,000 years ago. And that was when we were lifted from animal man to human. Human is light. And so we were lifted with a soul and a light being as well, and which is what we have gone on to be, and who have eventually become, because there have been more evolvements down through the time since then. But that was the big change. And we started to get this story after our friend Jerry, who took us, the Aboriginal clever fellow, the healer, took us to the site at Carillon. And these Egyptian-like hieroglyphs actually somehow opened us. We were all mediums, and it seemed to unlock this memory of being star people. And then more heard about it and more contacted me, and it seemed like I was the one that had to put it together, because my role at another time completely was with El Chiringa, who's always been known by many of the Indigenous people here, especially on the eastern side of Australia and Central Australia, always been helping. But he was the commander-in-chief of the huge mothership called Rexagena. Interesting, the Rexagena means king, and genes, of course, genes. So it's like King Genes, which came. They had it was very difficult. It's a long story. Recommend that people read it just to get a feeling about it. And once they understand and know, so many have since contacted, and I'm sure it's been passed on so that thousands know and remember of that particular event. Upstairs told me at the time that it was being written that all the people in the whole of the galaxy knew about the event, and they were very upset about it. However, so it is part of our evolution as a human race. And I think it's very important that we understand that, so that we understand also, you can get it, by the way, in as an ebook too, not very much at all. So I'm not trying to make money or anything. I'm just trying to share the work that we all had and what we did. And it also ties in with, they said upstairs, meaning Al Chiringa and the hierarchy, say that all the people that were on that ship, 50,000 people on that ship at that time, it was destroyed, it was blown up, only 90 survived, 90 people survived. However, all the rest, they've all come back now to remember the story and to remember the event. That's a big thing. So it's worthwhile thinking about anyway. I don't know if I've got a little bit lost again. Yeah. It's such
Valerie, I was going to ask, when you were talking about the blind people, were you referencing to the Lyrans?
To what was that?
To the Lyrans? I believe it's spelled L-Y-R-I-A.
Yes. Yes. Now I have purposely always, since I've been doing my work, I've always actually not actually read or watched any Star Wars stuff or any channeling or any other work, because I didn't want to influence my ability to just be a clear channel. So I didn't have anything else in my head, but I was given the understanding that yes, Al Chiringa and his wife, which is where I come from, I'm a messenger, that's all, here in this earth body. But, you know, at another layer of consciousness, I was his wife. And so that was why I and he now we were being appointed to tell the story. And yes, we were Lyrans at that time. And I don't know anything about Lyrans, actually. I haven't looked it up. I only do what I'm asked to do. That way, because I know there's so much and I could get confused. So I try to keep myself very clear all the time. Doesn't mean to say I'm an angel or I'm perfect, far from it. But it's fun and it's easier this way. Because if I'm asked to write, then I'm not confused. I just write what I was given, and that was it. But what they have said is that they couldn't give all the information to everyone, and that they would give it to different people, other people around the earth, and that sooner or later, which seems to be now, it would all come together and it would weave truth of exactly how it is and how it was. And if there's any differences, that's why they've asked me to just keep as I have been shown. So that doesn't mean to say that everything I'm doing is right, or that it's definitely, it's got a part of that. And it can be misunderstood. So when we talk about it and share it and explain, sooner or later we find it all interweaves and it's the same truth. It's quite wonderful, actually, the way they've put it all together and the theory behind it all. So I'm in service and I'm a messenger. That's it. So you asked me a question. I think I've lost it. What did you ask? Sorry. Well, you've lost it too.
I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out.
Yes, that's right.
To unmute Stephen and Evan. Stephen, Evan, if you just want to exit the studio and maybe just come back in.
No, I'm good. I found it.
Okay. There we go. Right on. My question was when you were talking about the Lion Man, if you were referring to the Lyrans, and you answered that question. So thank you very much, Valerie. I appreciate that.
Thank you. That's good.
We'll leave the rest up to Steve, the legend, because that's what Steve is. Stephen Strong from Forgotten Origins and Our Alien Ancestry. Stephen, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm not so sure about the legend part, but we'll do it anyway. Look, a couple of questions that came up as you were talking there, Valerie, I wanted to just explore a little bit more. You spoke about holding the sacred stone, and as you know, I'm quite empathetic with the idea that stones have a lot of energy. You know that back to front, as most people do. So that's not an issue for me, and I do believe you have been in contact with them. But there's something in that I find quite interesting I wanted to talk about. And I know that you invariably, and I might be wrong about this, always dress in white. And I remember once you remarked or confided with me that when you do conferences in Uluru, and you've done a few there, that some of the original women just cannot gel with you because of the fact they seem to have an issue with the idea that a white fella, a white soul, can't liaise with an original soul. If you're going to would you like to talk about that a bit more, the sort of responses you've got and how you feel that's wrong?
Yes. That's really why I started, I was prompted to write from the star people's point of view. So I'm actually not claiming to write from a human point of view in any way. I'm writing from the star people's point of view. Well, it's not quite accepted by scientists yet, but it will, and it's getting very close. Despite all the doubts and all that, I know that they've been wanting to contact here for a long time now. And it was interesting, Steve, that the bill that was put to the Senate in the United States about releasing as much information as they knew about the UFOs was on the 21st of December, 2020, which was the very time we were experiencing all this wonderful experience at Uluru. And also,
I'm going to ask you next. That's what I was going to talk to you about. And I'm glad you brought that up. Right. I wanted to go next with that. You were at Uluru at the time because obviously a lot of people have heard about it. But there weren't that many people actually there at the time. So, would you like to continue and talk about your experience on that day on the 21st of December. And you're right. I think within about 12 hours of this happening is when they made the announcement and started the whole thing. So, yeah, tell us about Uluru from your point of view.
Yes, it was a bit overwhelming, and I found myself sort of, I couldn't think clearly at all. And this is interesting, you know, when you visit a place, people like Sai Baba, who was an avatar, when you're in his presence, you cannot think. And so it was like when you do tune in, and there was a lot going on. Also, I was worried about John a bit. He was John is always putting me up a little bit. But anyway, we both noticed this moon. You know, there was grey clouds, and everyone thought it might even rain. And it was the solstice, if you remember.
Yeah.
And they made very strong energies around. And I can remember 2 cockatoos flying across together. I don't know if you remember this, just as everybody was sort of waiting and expecting. These 2 colourful things went, and they were shifting across. And I thought, oh, that's like an announcement, like something's going to happen now. And sure enough, suddenly all the clouds started changing from grey to these beautiful colours, and they were just going from light to lighter again, and all different colours. We were almost on a different planet. We were on probably Andromeda. It was a big difference. And at the same time, John and I were aware about the quarter moon. It was shining through to us a little bit. I don't know how many people noticed it. But anyway, and I closed my eyes, and it was a bit full moon. And then I opened it again, and it was a quarter moon. There was something going on within me. And I thought, what's going on? This is why I was a bit confused about things. And it was only later, as after all that wonderful experience we had, which I have actually written at the end of the Uluru book, which I've just starting to write, right? The Uluru and the Star People. And I have written about that. And there was another lady with me, and she was taking, and there was a big ring around the moon. After all the colour had gone, the sun had set and it was dark, and we were all heading towards the buses to get back on, right? And then there was a huge circle around the moon, and I thought, oh, we've got to take a photo of this. So we took it, and again, it wasn't a quarter moon, it was a full moon. It was ridiculous. How can it keep changing? It wasn't right. And so when I put the photo on my computer, the other ladies just was plain, but it was full, but plain. But with mine, it was spinning. It was really spinning, and it started to move. And I couldn't capture it enough. And I thought, oh, why didn't I? Actually, it was almost like somebody's hands had taken over my mobile and was fiddling with it, which is not the first time it's happened to me, by the way. And anyway, that to me was showing me that it must have been in front of the moon to actually be showing as a double, as a full size. So they did show, and because there was also that prediction when I was holding the sacred stone way back in 1992, they said that there was going to be a great showing en masse of Star People at Uluru, and all the world will hear about it. Now, it didn't happen first year, second year, third year, didn't happen. Fourth year, because they never gave me dates, which they never do. There are no dates. However, it did happen, except when I tuned into them and asked, well, what happened? Why, well, they said, we could see you, but you couldn't see us. So they're operating at a different layer of consciousness, right? All the time. And they're everywhere all the time.
And Valerie, you're right in one respect, because there were 15 to 20 million other people actually meditating at the time. So in one respect, the whole world was involved in it, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, but it was streamlined too. Don't you remember? It was streamlined, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I do remember. We were there too. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And they said Altering actually apologised on the plane going home. He was talking to me, and he said that they were apologised that they didn't show themselves en masse because of COVID-19. That there was around the world, it was so much sickness, so much confusion about the future, and people were unhappy and worried, all that. They said that if they'd shown themselves en masse with all the fiction of movies they make about being attacked, etc., that they thought they'd have a nervous breakdown. So they didn't do
I
it.
think it's a valid call too. I do think that's correct. And actually, I remember quite a few people were telling us there'd be a mass showing at the time. And as it turned out, as you know, we got a film they left behind of one craft that sort of goes across a couple of times, then disappears.
Yes.
I suppose it was their way of leaving a calling card,
Yes.
not the main event, because it was filmed by a gentleman who was actually legally blind, isn't he, Evan?
Yep.
Yeah, and we've
So
got.
he was just filming the sunset.
Yeah, like we were all looking at the sunset. He didn't realise there was a line across there, and we've got a film. So they did leave evidence, which we've got up, as you know, Valerie, on our presentation.
Yes, absolutely.
So the
Yeah.
evidence is there. But one last question, while we got the chance, Valerie, if we can go to another part of what you spoke about. And I know that you're very taken by a gentleman by the name of Tesla. And in particular, it reminds me, there's a question I want to refer to that comes out of an article that went up in Nexus about 2 years ago. And it was an interview with an alien with the US intelligence, and somehow it got out. And it was fascinating when they spoke about Tesla. And I wanted to ask you about what is inferred in this. At one stage, they said, well, why did you come? And they said, well, we mainly come to answer Tesla's call. He contacted us to come, so we came. And he said, when we got here, we were absolutely stunned that this gentleman was alive in the times, whether they're now or before. He was so far ahead, and we made contact. Now, I'm wondering, do you think that maybe some of the amazing inventions he made that we still can't copy, do you think they were partially his and partially guidance from above?
I absolutely have no doubt the star people exist.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually made a point of saying that the people that I contact now, at the moment, the last meeting we had, which was just in August, and it's on YouTube, it's not on my website even yet because we do a transcript. Hang on, I've got lost a bit there. Hang on, wait a minute. What am I trying to say? They actually, yes, that's right. They're in our future. They tell us they're 6,000 years in our future. So they came back. So they're like, I'm here and they're there, but they're communicating. They're back from the future. It's weird at 6,000 years. And you think, you can't get your head around that. But when you realize with quantum physics and everything happening at once, and even Einstein saying everything's relative, it's where your mind is focused. And like I have said, the past, present, and future are all happening at once. Yeah. They are. But when you start, so say, analyzing and, you come into and you're focusing, then you use measurements and that type of stuff in this reality, in this particular world that we live in here. Like with our eyes, we can only see so far into outer space, but we've got all these explorers that are sending back all these wonderful images. We wouldn't see that unless we had something assisting us to bring back. And then there's another one I like too, is the fact there's different layers of consciousness. Well, what about the layer of consciousness that's very busy with life forms of bacteria and virus? That exists. We see that in a microscope, but we can't see it with our physical eyes. So straight away, come on, open your minds a bit. There's a lot of things that we don't understand because we are limited in a physical earth body, but not with our soul consciousness, with our God self. We are given what we need to know. Yeah.
I think Tesla may have been in contact with other levels and they may have assisted that. And one last thing, at the beginning here, you spoke a bit about the dreaming, okay?
Yes.
And I thought it might be a good way to finish this because Al Karinga is obviously an original spirit. I have no doubt about that. And then you have contact with the rock, and I have no doubt about that. And you spoke about the dreaming, and we do have no doubt also that will become part of the future. That's what's going to take place in the future. What do you think his and your vision of the dreaming of the future will be? What do you think the end result of this? Because all that's taking place now is a cleansing and a separation into the Mayan two roads, where people have to make a decision. Now, I understood that was going to happen. That was part of the prophecy. Yeah. But in the future, for those who do stay on the correct road, what do you think the dreaming philosophy of that will be?
Well, I've just remembered the name that scientists give the dreaming, and it's called theta layer of consciousness, right? And that's the one that you are in before you go into deep sleep. Okay. Right? So, and they found it when they awakened people that were in a deep sleep because their eyes started to flutter. Yeah. And when they awake, they said, yes, I was dreaming. And that's how they come to understand it. So as part of what's happening in the future, it's like almost, from my understanding, and I don't ask these questions, I just accept what they give me or what they ask me to do. And with the future, what I feel is it's like we need to trust, because I think the future can take many different tracks, right? You could sort of start walking this path, then suddenly you veer off and you're on another one. That's your future too. That future for that person is different from that future there for that person, that type of stuff, right? So it can be very confusing. And it's the same for the big picture, like the universe. And when I talk about universes, to me, there's no outside of, I try to think or explain what a universe is. And I heard Professor Michio Kaku, have you heard? I like listening to him. He explains, he talks about bubbles. And in some ways, a bubble can sort of come together and become one bubble, or it can disappear altogether. Somehow or other, all that is what...
That's all. It has a choice, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So I think we can create, and we have a choice too. And I think that's actually what's happening now. Yeah. They have explained, they've talked about how there's a separation that's been on the books, prophesied for a long time, even in the Bible, the wheat from the chaff stuff. It's not because a man with a long white beard is saying, you're good, you're not, you're good, you're not. It's nothing like that. It's to do with what our body, if you like, in this layer of consciousness, can handle, the strength of the energy and the frequency. And that is everything. And that's light. And when you think about it, it's connected to the sun. And if we talk about the sun can be so hot, it can destroy, but it also can nurture and help things to grow. So, we're caught with this energy. It seems to fit where it's almost like there is an intelligence there that we don't understand totally in our physical brain at all.
No, we don't. You said something before, Valerie, too, about how it is difficult to understand intelligence. You've got to remember, when you look at bees and ants, how do you define their intelligence? Do you say that thing in the middle has all of it? Because they make amazing, resonant, conscious, and very logical decision that reacts to the environment. But how does that decision get made?
Yes, that's right.
It really is. We don't understand it all. But I think the one thing you said in the start about the future is trust. That's the one thing that actually is central to a group of beings of any type living together in harmony. If they don't trust each other, everything else falls apart, doesn't it?
Yes,
so, that's actually and probably a good way to finish this, because that's really what the future is about, creating trust. And at the moment, the world is full of mistrust and misinformation. I love the word we hear now. I thought that was in the Nazis and the communists only use that word. Now we've got people in authority using the same word. But anyway, it's about trust.
I've got one. You can be serious about the mystery, the mysterious, right?
Yeah.
Serious about the mysterious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's exactly what's happening in the world. Been
and also, here's another one for you. Astra-alien. It's Australian. I love it.
Oh, yeah. That's not bad. Hey, let's finish for that. I like that. Okay, Valerie, look, fantastic job. I've seen you talk before, and it's always enjoyable. and it was again. Thank you for that. And
Dave,
yeah,
thank you.
thank you for being there on the 21st of December and being part of that, because you're obviously meant to be there at that time for that. And
Yes.
bring
Well,
on
that's
the future.
that's another thing. People, if they trust and they're following their feelings and their intuition, which is inside teaching, if they're following that, they'll be at the right place for whatever's meant for them, even though they might not consciously be aware of it. That's to do with trust as well.
Good one. Excellent. I think that's a great finish. Okay, we throw it back to Omar now. And thank you, Valerie. Over to you, Omar.
Thank you, Omar.
Valerie, I just have one last question for you.
Yep.
It's from our good friend and the sponsor of our event here, one of them, Paul Wallace.
Yes, sure.
Get this question in for sure. Paul Wallace says, I would like to ask Valerie, are there any good tools that you would recommend for achieving a theta state?
A what kind of state?
A theta state, Theta. Am I saying that right, Paul? Maybe.
Theta, yes, yes.
Theta.
Okay.
Theta,
Theta state, yeah.
Yeah, I believe there have been schools and they cost a fortune, but you don't have to do that. We all have it within us, and well, I do the work. I don't know what I'm letting myself in for here, but I do the work on Skype, and when I tune in, I'm blessed with this stone that still has this wonderful energy with it, and that seems to take over. And you can hear funny noises on the Skype. I've got a whole lot of stuff I could share with someone if they're interested, and there's patterns and colours, and also there's sometimes it's like a laser, a white like laser going into somebody's head here, working, and because it's on a, I can't do it for too long, but it's actually on a movie, and it's actually helping people to recalibrate the what can I say, the DNA or the RNA, whatever you like, the consciousness of the Earth body, because it's our Earth body that's heavy and lagging behind to try and keep up with the raised consciousness that's happening upon this Earth now. So that is actually, and the theta layer of consciousness is what will help us to actually work with our brain and the rest of the work that happens in our consciousness of our Earth body to actually raise also. It's a matter of surrendering, actually, surrendering our Earth body, our personality to our God self, our creator self. And we can't have the creator self here onto this Earth because it'd be too bright, too strong, it'd explode. Our brain would explode. It's just too much. So we've got to, it's not like we're being what can I say? We're not being punished in any way. It's just that it's not practical. It's not science. Does that make sense? We are on a limited conscious layer of consciousness here on this planet. That's why it's so difficult. We go to other planets with a raised consciousness, and it's very easy to live, and it's lovely. And that's where we go. Quite often, a lot of us go there when we leave our Earth body. So there's nothing to be afraid of when we move on. We don't die. We just leave our Earth body and move on to another life or back to our God self.
That is a total epic answer. And I really like that, what you said about the layers of consciousness, because in my mind, what I'm beginning to think is that when we incarnate onto this density, we've chosen the level of consciousness to experience while we are here. Because we're infinite consciousness to begin with, we downgrade ourselves by coming here to experience just this level of consciousness, and in an attempt to raise that awareness to reach that that upper consciousness, right? That higher consciousness. So I really resonate with that answer that you just gave.
Thank you, and that is quite correct, actually. And it's the same with the planet. Everything has consciousness. It's not just humans. I mean, trees have consciousness. I mean, how does a seed that falls onto the ground, how does it know that it's got to grow up to be another tree like it just fell from? That is intelligence in it. It's like opening your mind a bit, not just seeing it as the way we understand it, but the big picture. And that's the intelligence, of course, from the source of all creation. I don't know if I said that right. Anyway.
Just a comment from Paul Wallace. He said, superb. Then I'll give you a call, Valerie, and with a big smile from ear to ear.
Oh, that's lovely. I really wanted to share our story from our Taringa when the first ancestors were created, because it's like, you know, how the scholars have had disagreements about whether we have evolved from animal or whether we have been created by God. And they're both right. They're both right. There's no disagreement. It's both. This is in the story, right? That's what it's all about. Okay?
Incredible.
It's quite
That's
a
incredible.
Yes, it is. And it's done, and like I said, it's a book. It's available as an ebook. I think it's $1 or something. I don't know. It's not very much. And so it's quite easy to read or share. It's something that's come from upstairs. I won't say. All I've done, all I am, is a messenger. So I've just put pen to paper, and we've worked together. I did get help with writing this because there were so many people coming with different stories, but all from the same event. That was the secret. It was quite something else. And in some ways, too, the story that's there and Egyptian hieroglyphs, they also mention about other hieroglyphs that would be probably from Star People, which is right. But the others from Egypt, that was people coming here. Well, I had 5 people in a row, again, set up, that remembered a time when they were on these boats that came from Egypt with King Tut and came here. Now that was because he wanted to get the body that was in the tomb that exists there at Gosford, and they're saying it's all nonsense and it's not real, but it is. The body disappeared. That's because they took it back to Egypt. And now we believe it's in a secret part of King Tut's tomb, which they say is actually an existing of a room there, and they don't know what's in it. They don't want to destroy anything to have a look, but we are hoping that it is the missing body from the tomb that was taken from Carry-On back to Egypt at the time. So that'll be proof. And also that bone, Stephen, you remember the bone that Auntie Minnie gave you and you had it analysed? I have a feeling because King Tut apparently was related to the body that was first there 1,000 odd years before. And when they took it back. So if he dropped a little bone, that DNA would be recorded in probably King Tut's DNA, but really comes from the original body that was there in the first place. If he's related, I don't know enough about genetics, but to me, they can prove that they're related. So
yeah, you're right about that. They actually are, and that's why the Australian government made it clear to me officially by phone and in writing that the bones I have, if I take them out the front door, I'll be arrested, and they've told me that I'll go to jail for how long and what the fine will be, 3 years and $1 million, and if I get them tested, I will be immediately arrested and put in jail. So yes, I'm quite sure the Australian government knows that the bone I've got is Nefertari's bone. There's no doubt about that, because the object that was found with it has 24% metal that's never been found on this planet. So they were found together. But yes, the government have got that under control. The Australian government has sorted that out. Don't worry about that. There will be no testing, and anyone that tried to test it would also go to jail. And I've got an academic, a professor, that has all the machinery to do it and has seen it and will do it. So don't worry, that's all sorted out, but the government's on top of that.
Yeah, that's so wrong, though, because there's an agenda there, of course. I mean, why would they want to hide it? Why would they want to hide it? It's ridiculous. So We can take guesses, right?
That's a
But-
different story, but there's a gender in Australia with anything we've got.
Well-
But that's okay, it's normal.
We need a whole lot of new leaders.
Well,
New leader.
that's what the change is about, Valerie. Okay, that's what it's about. And it's another reason why we have to have a change, because it's
Yes,
chaos.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Valerie. And thank you very much,
Thank you,
Stephen
Anna.
and Evan.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys coming on to Watchers Talk, to our Total Disclosure, to really give us a download and help us to understand our reality a little bit better than what we did an hour ago and yesterday and last week. So I really appreciate it. Lots of respect for you, Valerie. Lots of love for you. I've been following your work for a long time. So, I'm very happy that you had accepted to come on here and share your thoughts with us. And of course, Stephen, thank you very much for this wonderful interview and the great questions that you asked. I just love your mindset and the way you approach the subject and the topic. It's very teacherly-like.
Guilty as charged.
So I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. And I think we are at the closing of our day 4. And we got one more day to go. And guys, we have plowed through 40 some odd speakers in the last 4 days. We've analyzed and explored almost every spectrum of the disclosure package, and and we've learned a lot, and we've I've sat, as Paul would say, at the feet of some very amazing people like Valerie and Stephen and Dr. Sam and Dr. Manu and Alan, and we can just go on and on and on with the list of speakers and the amazing people that we've had here. Those are the people that we've been waiting for. People like Valerie, people like Stephen, because they've been out there working hard for like decades in researching and learning and writing books and doing things to help us to elevate our awareness. So they are the truly ones that we've been waiting for. We're just simply facilitating their message to the world. That being said, my name is Omar, coming at you guys from British Columbia, Canada. With Total Disclosure, we will see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Right here, same place, same spot. Be safe for the night. Much love.
Much love, everybody.